Hello and welcome to the Dutchin channel. It's Friday the 12th of April 2024 and it's coming up to 7:15 in the morning. I'm sorry I didn't get here last night. I didn't feel too well. So I'm a bit behind with doing everything this morning. And I'm just going to brush through yesterday's results and another profitable day. But I've slightly changed the system, but I'll show you that in just a moment. It was only slightly because I'm really getting fed up with doing odds-on selections where I'm only doing one in a race, and I don't really like backing odds-on if I don't have to. And when I look back at how many we've had win to how many lose, well, if you take it that on average I'm most probably winning an extra £25 for the 50, it's outweighed by the ones that lose. So I've sort of slightly changed what I'm doing. Let's look into the profit and loss sheet. I laid out yesterday 711.01, got back 900, and there was a 188.99 profit. And you can see in the last 9 days now we're picking up a little bit, but it still doesn't mean we can just dent straight this afternoon, because if we are blaming it on the weather, then you may as well say that, we're getting rain day after day still. So we'll see what happens there. So let's have a look as I scroll down a bit further. And at the bottom there, don't forget this is mine. So I started with like 1,000 banks. So I'm still £230 adrift. But it has come down now to 4.6. If you're doing it for £1 or whatever you're doing it for, then those points will be what you're still losing for the month. So if you was to look here and say, right, we've had 193 bets this month and you had £1 on each of those, we would now be losing £4.60 for £1, which is not bad when you think we were hammered early in the month and then we had a big hammering on the 8th as well. So it's to get where we are at the moment. I think we've done pretty well. And if we look back to yesterday here, now you can see I still only have like one winner at Taunton, only two at Aintree, but the stakes are slightly different. I'll show you how when we go in and have a look at the winners and losers. I've changed it round a little bit to a value system. I've done that yesterday because of, as I said, when you look back at doing these odds-on ones, or even the ones that are very close to evens, or even 5 to 4, 6 to 4 sometimes, you're only doing one or two in a race. So you'll see that I've done nothing different, but all I've done now is pick the value ones instead of these very low ones, because we know that on average 1 in 3 favourites win on a day. Well, it's not on a daily basis, but it's on an average. 1 in 3 do win. So what happens to the other two? I've got nothing to really go with it if I'm back in short. So to try and have a look at some value bets, all right, we had a little bit of a run here in the evening. Otherwise, yeah, it could have been a bad day again. But this is what averages is all about. So if you took 1 in 3 yesterday and said that's how many favourites win, I didn't write down at the bottom how many races there were. 5, 10, 14. Yeah, so in 20 races, the favourite should win between 6 and 7 times, according to the stats. And if we look, if we look here, we had won 9 races out of 20. And then you say to yourself, well done, mate, how have you won 9 races out of 20? Well, because the stakes are a lot less. Because if you're back in a race where you're not back in the favourite, you could end up laying out sort of £18, £25, £17, because you're not putting that one in. So that's going to take most of your money in that race. I mean, you take an even shot, you've got to put 50 on, but it leaves nothing for anywhere else. So it's better to hope that you get that beat rather than pray that you've only got one and that's the only one you can look for. So we'll go with this for a while, so we'll see what happens. But that's how yesterday profited. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to go on my other sheet and go through how we got to those results, because that's the most important one. And we'll start with the first race at Aintree yesterday, the 145. And people have asked me about this, and I did put a video out. These are my SPs in the first column, which you can see there, column Z. And in AB, these are Betfair. Now, if you don't want to use Betfair and you want to use the high street bookmaker, you will back less selections in a race than I do, but you could still profit. It just depends on which ones you don't do. So here, I would have had to have backed everything bar the favourite. But if I was just having one bet or doing my normal, I would be only to back Grey Dawning and a little bit of money on the second favourite. So that wouldn't be the idea. The idea now is to back the ones in this column that are bigger than the ones in my column. So these four here staked as £51.44. And it left the favourite out. But if only 1 in 3 favourites win anyway, 2 out of them 3 are going to lose. So it might make sense at the end of the day, and it might not. So let's have a look into the second race here, which was the 220. Now, my selection yesterday was Cargessi, and the prices moved quite a lot in this race. But that went out to 267. Now I have 238, so we will still be backing horses to quite a bit of amount. But now that you don't have to go up to £50, you can go to whatever it is. Or if you get to £50 and it's more, you can say, well, I'm not betting in that place, which is another thing I need to look at. But here, the favourite won it. So if you work it round now, if I'd have been doing top selections, I would have made money on that race, but lost on the first one, whereas I've won on the first one and lost on the second one. So it sort of levels itself out. But you can see that the prices of the other ones here are bigger than what I estimate them. Then into the third race, our top selection was Jerry Colon. Yes, it won. I made that around 13-8, and of course it was on the drift, went out to 3.75 or 11-4. So then that becomes a value bet. All right, if you can see here that the ones that I wouldn't have wanted to have betted on yesterday, it's not far out, but it would have been Ahoy Senor, which came second, Corbett's Cross, and the bottom one, Shishkin. So these are the ones that I wouldn't wanted to have backed. But of course, this system that I'm doing here for the value bets, the ones that I don't bet, you could do as lay bets, because it's the same. I'm betting the ones with value, and the other ones aren't value, so they become, that, in my estimations, that they won't win the race. Then we moved into the 330. What a race this was. So I would have not backed Impere Pass, which won it, and Bob Ollinger, which came a nose second, but I would have backed Langadan, which was a short head away in third, but it was a great race. So again, I would have lost there. All right, but I'm not relying on a short-priced favourite or anything to worry about. Then we went into the 440 at Aintree. There was quite a few that I wouldn't have backed in this race, but then there was quite a few that I would have done, maybe half the field. And at the bottom there, you can see my stake was £42.72. But the only thing is we're doing sort of value bets, yes, you'll get some favourites win, but they're not going to be silly prices. So here, this was Sam Brouet, came first, 6.9. I've made it a huge price of 33, so I wouldn't be betting on that anyway. But the ones we did bet on lost. So I haven't changed this for you to say, oh yeah, Brie, oh you win every race, because it's not after the event. And then we moved into Taunton, 208 here. You can see slightly here that we've got a bet that is bigger than what I make it, and it duly won. But again, if you look at the other ones here, even though I gave this favourite Hentai Ahead to win at 2.8, it goes off at 2.3. So that becomes a non-value bet. But in my estimations, if I was laying something in that race, I wouldn't lay it, because I've given it to win. It's my top selection. So I would never say to myself, I'll do it to lose when I'll give it the win. Even though I'm not betting on it, I'm just looking for value in the race. So we found a value bet in that race. You can see I've only had 9 winners out of 20 and still profited. You can basically sometimes go down to 6 winners doing this system out of 20 and still drawing level. Then we moved into the 243 at Taunton, Soir de Gala. This was another favourite. You can see that it was 2.7. I made it 10 point something. So I wouldn't be betting on that. But because of all the short ones I didn't fancy, I've backed over half the field, but I've only laid out £17.72, where it's completely different to us going, well, hold on a minute, we'll lay out £50 in that race. Yes, so if you look at the prices above here, I most probably would have won. But you've got to now be looking at, do you want to keep backing all these favourites in every race? This is what I looked at. I went back on the whole of the month and a bit of March yesterday and thought to myself, this is what I need to be doing rather than backing all the shorties, because I'm sure there's people out there who would rather look at a value bet and stick 4 of them in a lucky 15 rather than sticking 4 even money shots in one, with perhaps getting 2 winners. And you know yourself, doing an each way lucky 15, if the prices are right, a couple of places in that pays better than 2 even money winners. Right, and then in the next race here, how this race went, I could never tell you really, but I had Flash Gorgon as my top rated selection, but again, I didn't have this as a value bet. But as they approached, I think it was about the second or third last, Breaking Cover was absolutely cruising, then it fell, and then Western General was left in front, and it made a hash of the last, and Flash Gorgon come back and won it. I don't even know how it got there, but even if you look here, I wouldn't have backed Western General anyway. I wouldn't have backed the one that was falling. And again, we only laid out £23.71. So these still get us back £100, but we're not laying out £50 a race. But you may do, like that one I showed you, going back a while, was £58 something. Now you can make a decision. If it's going to cost you more than £50 to have a bet in the race, maybe that's like backing another odds-on favourite. Maybe we need to look at that and go, too much stake in that race for too little return, line through it. But we'll see if there's any more of them going through what the ones I'm showing you now. And then in the 353 at Taunton, this came through, I don't know, about 3 or 4 from the end, and went and won as it liked, like a favourite, but of course it wasn't a favourite. It wins at 12.7. I've got it at 19.53. So again, for me, that's another loser. But even if I'd have backed all the ones at the top, I still wouldn't have won. into the 10th race altogether now, and we're going to look at the 428 at Taunton, Seymour Promise. Now this is one at 16.9, and I'll tell you now, I would have got 17.21, so I would have won. But again, just showing you how it would work on the SP is different from what I bet and what I don't bet. But you can see what I've got is a little bit under. So just for information purposes, when I do these sheets at the end of the day, I use the Betfair SP. You can't get that Betfair SP while you're betting. So this here would have been a winner because you would have got that price at some point. So that was that race, and the stake again, we're not up to £50, we're at 32.27, but it still returns £100. So on this one we will say that that was a loser, because there will be a few more where we're perhaps a few points over and that becomes a winner. So I'm going to do it exactly where it should be. Even if this was 17.20, I would put it down as a loser just to show you. So that was not a good meeting really at Taunton. Then we moved into Southwell. The first two favourites just ran that straight from start to finish, and they finished first and second. They were too short for us, and we'd backed most of the field there at £25. But again, sort of 3-1, isn't it? Because we're going to get £100 back if we win for all the rest of the runners doing it. But there wasn't anything that was coming out of the pack there, so that was settled by the first and second favourites. Then we went into, well, I did put this up as a nap. It got out last, stayed last. I don't like the jockey, but when I do this, I don't do anything to do with the trainer, jockey, going, whatever it is. If I give it, I give it. But when I look at it after the race and I look back and I think, oh my God. But that's it. That's just life, because it's the horse underneath is good enough. If she would have had that a little bit further up me and Nichols to start with, maybe it would have won. But she just left it out the back of four runners, and it just went further backwards. And it was a poor jockeyship, and it was a poor run from the horse. So my next selection down, if when I was doing it the other way, I would have backed Mersey, and there would have been a profit in it. But here, the only horse, because don't forget, we made this yesterday 2.12. So this went off as our nap. But here, it drifted out anyway, because they mostly thought, well, she don't win races, so we might as well just let it drift. So that was the only one that went on the drift and was good enough to have a bet. But as you can see, we're not laying out 50 quid again. It's £18.86, and it would return 100. But that was another loser. Now this race, the 340, you think, oh my God, look, 15.5 winner. But of course, when you see them larger price winners, you think to yourself, well, we must have a chance of having it. I've only made it 7.93, so it was sort of nearly double. But in the other way around, we would have backed Path to Dubai. And this is where I would have had Time to Be Nice as well on the second one there. And then you come down to the third selection, which is odds on. And this is what I'm saying about beaten favourites. This was Sir Alex Ferguson's Road to Wembley. And that's come in there at 1.7. And that was the only one that we wouldn't back, because it would cost us all of our money. So we don't do that. And against the field, we got £42.15 to hope that one of the other four win. Well, of course, one of them did. So that was a winner for us at Southwell. Then in the next race, the 415, either way you look at this, our top selection was How Impressive. That goes off for favourite. Then you had Lion Tower goes off second, or joint second favourite near enough, with Mustajab that come through and won. So yeah, we're going to get losers here. But if you're leaving the favourites out of a lot of them and backing half the field, not the same as the last race because we had the whole field against the favourite, but this one here, you'll be looking there and saying to yourself, well, I can afford 4 of those races and just win one of them to get me money back. So that was the 4:15 at Southall. Then we go on a bit of a run in a minute, but let's have a look at this one. This is Churchella. This was our 3rd selection, but look again at the top. Safi Brilliance, 1.74, £50 straight on that, and the ticket straight in the bin. You've lost. And you haven't got no other help. It's just one. And this got tailed off last. That's how bad it was. Eased up when he couldn't win it and finished stone last. So we've ended up with 4 other bets in the race. So we've got money running for us, and we've given Churchella that has won it. And if you look at the bottom, just leaving the favourite out and a couple of others, means we're only staking £21. And it's worth going against the favourite with £21 than losing 50 on the favourite, in my eyes. And it's making this system easier for people that are not really Dutching people, because this now is most probably, you would say, it isn't Dutching. It isn't away, but you haven't got to put much thought into it. All you've got to do this time is back the selections that are higher than what I give it. That's as easy as that. Now, many a star came through and won the 5:23 at Southall, which I had second anyway. So it wasn't as if this was a big outsider and I didn't pick it. I picked it, and it's won at 23. And my SP here was 5.95. So I would have backed that in the normal way of backing anyway. So that was another win. Then moving on to the 6:30 at Chelmsford. In my normal system, I would have had this one to win, so it's no different. And the SP here this time is 6.2. And my SP is 7.89. Now, how have I got that? I'll have to review that one. Yeah, I'll have to review that one. It doesn't knock the profit down anywhere because I can put that one that was on 16.90 in, so it doesn't make any difference. But yeah, I had that one on the normal system, the win view from the stars, so there wouldn't have been no difference there. And then we go into the 7 o'clock at Chelmsford, where we have Southbank. And Southbank here was 4.6. We had it at 4.45, so it was slightly lower in that sense. So that would have been a win for us there. And you can see the stakes would have been £35. But I'd have had this either way. That didn't make any difference. And in the 7:30, True Courage came through and won this at 11.28. So that was another one of our value selections. And if I'd have carried on doing the normal system here, I'd have just gone down to the 3rd one and not been able to do that 4th one. And you can see again, this time we're £56.76. So with that £58 earlier where I said you could draw a line through it if you wanted to, there's not many of these 56 ones. They're all 20s and 30s basically. And then moving into the last race for Pleasure, that was another outsider at 12.63. We have 5.58. And we'd have backed 3 of them here, so we still would have laid out 48 quid. But again, on the other way around of doing it, I would have had to have backed the first 3 in the betting. So I wouldn't have got down to that far. So this is perhaps a way of looking of how you can change your bets and get the larger winners. I'm sorry about the other one here that I shouldn't have put in. So I'd have had to have taken that off with a laid out 25 quid. But the other one that was just a few pence under, I would have done that anyway. So it's this one I wouldn't have. So that's basically how we arrived at a profit today. And we need to push on. We're only 4.6, if you like, units away from getting back to level. So we'll see how today goes. I will put a video up with the selections. So other than that, thanks for watching, and we'll catch you in tonight's result show.